methods of interpreting the radiograph. The first method is basically using the memory. A picture of a radiographic description that you have studied in a textbook or heard in a lecture, which is known as the Aunt Mini method. The second one is a more systematic step-by-step method, which is preferable because of its sound scientific basis. So we'll be studying both the methods and the advantages and disadvantages of each one of them. So what does one expect the student to do by the end of this lecture? By the end of this lecture, the student should be able to describe the step-by-step method of interpretation of a radiograph. He can always use this method to interpret simple periapical pathologies. If he is able to differentiate complex and rare periapical or jaw pathologies, it would be an additional achievement. So basically, we expect the student to be able to interpret simple periapical pathologies. Now here we have a picture of a general radiologist having a look at the plain film radiography using a view box. A view box can be used for plain film radiography to view the images, and it helps you to interpret the images. In case of digital radiography, you do not require a view box, and the images can be simply viewed on the screen of your computers. In the dental setup, we often find a small view box is usually attached to the dental chair in an area where the instruments are placed. The small intraoral periapical radiograph can be placed on these view boxes and can be interpreted. This holds good for plain film radiography, the conventional method. In the digital method, a screen is attached to the dental chair which can directly show the radiograph that is required by the dentist. Besides this, it is always advisable to have less amount of ambient light in the room. The room needs to be quiet, and if required, the dentist needs to use a magnifying glass to find out finer details. As I told you earlier, there are two steps of interpreting a radiograph. One, you match the radiographic image with an image that is there in your memory when you have seen a picture in the textbook or on a PowerPoint presentation, and then arrive at a diagnosis. The second method, you go step by step, seeing each landmark and each effects of the pathology on the radiograph, and then come to a diagnosis. So these are the two methods. We will study about these two methods one by one. Now here we have an example of Aunt Mini method. Here we have a panoramic image showing multilocular radiolucencies of different sizes. We have an image of a honeycomb and a soap bubble appearance. We match this and then think probably it might be an ameloblastoma. This is how you use the Aunt Mini method. Here in this particular slide, there is an explanation of how a soap bubble appearance is correlated to that of ameloblastoma. This is because in most of the textbooks, the classical appearance of ameloblastoma is often described as the soap bubble pattern. In the step-by-step method, there are 5 steps, and each step makes it very systematic for the interpretation. The first step is to localize the abnormality, followed by assessing the periphery and the shape, then the internal structure, effects on the surrounding structure, and finally you come at a diagnosis. Now let us study the first step, that is localization of the abnormality. Now here you see two OPGs. The first OPG, on the left side of the mandible, you can see a lesion which is localized to that area only. In the second OPG, you can see lesions extending from the ramus and the condyle of one side to the ramus and the condyle of the other side. More details of this is described in the next slide. The first OPG describes a localized lesion such as a periapical cyst. The second one, in fact, shows a generalized lesion. Example for that is a condition called as cherubism, which extends massively from one area of the jaw to the other. The stress on localization of the lesion. Here we have a lesion in the apical area of an incisor. The second radiograph, we have a lesion on the coronal area of a molar. This is another way of localizing the lesion, whether it is in one specific area, root or the crown. Here again we have an option of localizing the lesion. Here in the first image, you see that lesion is in the periapical area. In the second image, the lesion is within the mandibular canal. In the third image, the lesion is below the mandibular canal. So this can give very important information regarding the nature of the lesion. To be more specific, the lesion which is above the mandibular canal is usually odontogenic in origin. The lesion that is within the mandibular canal can only be of neural or vascular in origin, and the lesion that is below the mandibular canal is most of the time non-odontogenic in origin. For example, Chaffney's bone cyst is an ectopic submandibular salivary gland. Now here we have lesions extending throughout the skull. This lesion can also be seen in the mandible. Typical nature of the lesion is circular, appears like punched out areas and generalized in distribution. So this could be indicative of some kind of very aggressive and malignant type of lesion. This kind of picture is usually seen in a malignancy called multiple myeloma. Classical feature, multiple punched out radiolucency usually seen in flatter bones such as the skull bone, mandible and the ribs. So this kind of feature is very pathognomic for certain diseases and conditions. The second most important step in radiographic interpretation is to assess the periphery of the lesion. Here we have two radiographs. The first one shows that the periphery is very well defined. You can make out the abnormal and normal area very clearly. Look at the second OPG. We find radio-opaque area which has no clear demarcation. That means the border is not at all well defined. We have an explanation for both these radiographs in the next slide. The first one is the example of radicular cyst or residual cyst. It has got a very well defined margin. The second one is of a condition called fibrous dysplasia and also seen in osteomyelitis, where the margin is not at all well defined. Look at the first OPG. You have a clear, well defined, rounded structure, mostly hinting towards the cyst. But when you look at the second one, it has not got a clear margin, but appears scalloped throughout. You continue following the margin along the lower border of the mandible, you can see that it is scalloped throughout till it reaches the other end. So it can have a regular, smooth, well-defined margin or a scalloped margin. The smooth, well-defined margin is usually indicative of a cyst, whereas a scalloped margin usually indicative of tumors such as ameloblastoma. Having looked at the periphery of the lesion, it's now the next step to analyze the internal structure of the lesion. Here we have four images. Let us look at them one by one. Starting with the image on the left side, top one, you see a clear radiolucent internal structure. Move to the right, you see internal structure is mixed. It's got radio-opaque areas from claviculi. Then we move downwards, you see whitish radio-opaque area, the third image. The fourth lesion, you see a tooth displaced within the lesion and then radio-opaque white structures surrounding it. So these are the four types of internal structures lesions can have. Completely radiolucent internal structure is more common with a cyst, whereas radio-opaque septations and multilocular appearance are more common with tumors. Completely radio-opaque structure is seen in conditions such as cementoblastic or odontoma. In both these conditions, the internal content is completely whitish or radio-opaque. Also, calcified structure and displaced teeth within the lesion is commonly seen in one of the odontogenic tumors known as adenomatoid odontogenic tumor. The last but one step in interpretation is to analyze the effect of a lesion on the surrounding structures such as the teeth, the neurovascular bundle and the other anatomical landmarks. Have a look at these two images. The first image shows you that the roots of the premolar and the molar are completely resorbed due to the pressure effect of the cyst. The third molar is actually tilted due to the pressure effect of the cyst. Have a look at the second panoramic radiograph. You see that one of the premolars is displaced towards the base of the mandible. These are the effects a cyst or a tumor can cause to the normal structure surrounding it. This slide shows you the theoretical description which I was talking about in the previous slide. We have a few more slides to show the effects of a cyst or a tumor on the surrounding structure. Have a look at these two mandibular occlusal radiographs. The first one shows you the expansion of the buccal cortical plate might be due to an infection of the bone known as osteomyelitis. In the second one, you can see there are radio-opaque spikes resembling sunburn. Now this could be due to conditions or malignancies such as osteosarcoma. Having gone through the details of the radiograph thoroughly, step-by-step manner, the last step is to write the radiographic report. It needs to be started with the patient's general information. The next would be the type of imaging modality used and the date of examination. After that, a brief clinical history if it has been referred to you. Then you write the radiographic findings step by step, starting from the periphery, internal structure, effects on the other organ or the surrounding landmark, and finally you come to a diagnosis or a radiographic impression. This is followed by your name, signature and the date. So this is the last step in the writing of the radiographic report. For any more details on this particular topic, please do read the text